Alexander was born in 356 BC in the ancient city of Pella, the capital of Macedon, a rising kingdom at the edge of Greece. His name was Alexander, son of King Philip II and Queen Olympias, and from the very beginning, his world was different. His mother believed he was descended from gods. His father was a conqueror who united the fractured Greek city-states. Alexander grew up in a palace surrounded by ambition, war, and the sound of soldiers training in the yard below his window. But it was not just strength that shaped him, it was the mind. At the age of 13, his tutor became the philosopher Aristotle, who taught him literature, ethics, logic, and the mysteries of the world beyond Greece. By the time he was 16, Alexander was commanding troops in battle. 2 years later, his father was assassinated. At just 20 years old, Alexander became king. Many doubted him. The Greek cities saw an opportunity to rebel. Thrace and Thebes rose against him. Alexander crushed them both. Thebes was destroyed, utterly, a brutal message to the rest of Greece. No one doubted him again. But his ambitions reached far beyond Greece. His true enemy was the Persian Empire, vast, ancient, and still proud under the rule of King Darius III. Alexander crossed the Hellespont with 40,000 soldiers in 334 BC, setting foot into Asia and never turning back. His first test came at Granicus River, where he defeated the Persian satraps and nearly lost his life. He led the charge himself, spear in hand, helmet flashing in the sun, cutting down enemies as his men followed. His courage was real. His soldiers knew it. That loyalty would carry them across continents. He moved south along the coast, liberating Greek cities under Persian rule. At Gordium, he faced the fabled Gordian knot, said to be impossible to untie. Alexander drew his sword and sliced through it. Whether myth or truth, it became symbolic. He would not be stopped by tradition or obstacles. He would cut through anything in his path. At Issus, he faced Darius for the first time. Outnumbered, cornered, and facing a larger force, Alexander's tactics were flawless. He turned the Persian line, broke through, and forced Darius to flee. In victory, he captured Darius's family, but treated them with dignity. It wasn't just war, it was reputation. It was empire building. He moved to Egypt and was crowned as a liberator. There he founded the city of Alexandria, one of over 20 that would bear his name. He visited the oracle at Siwa Oasis, deep in the desert. What the oracle told him is lost to time, but when he left, he began calling himself Son of Zeus. Then came Gaugamela, 331 BC, the final showdown. The Persian army was massive, with chariots, elephants, and the open plain advantage. But Alexander was prepared. He created a gap, drove into the heart of the enemy, and once again, Darius ran. It was the end of Persia. Babylon, Susa, Persepolis, the great cities of the east, all fell to him. But Alexander didn't stop. He pursued Darius deep into the east, even as the king was murdered by his own satraps. Alexander gave Darius a royal burial, then hunted down the traitors himself. Now ruler of the largest empire the world had ever seen, Alexander pressed on, through the mountains of Bactria, into Sogdia, across rivers and deserts, chasing not just enemies, but legacy. He married Roxana, a Bactrian noblewoman. He began adopting Persian customs, to the discomfort of his Macedonian companions. Some saw him slipping from the man they followed. Tensions grew. At Sogdian Rock, he scaled a mountain fortress with a small elite force and took the city by surprise. At times, it felt like he was chasing something beyond conquest, perhaps the limits of possibility itself. In 327 BC, he crossed the Hindu Kush into India. At Hydaspes, he fought King Porus, a ruler who brought war elephants to the field. The battle was fierce, muddy, and brutal. Alexander won, but when he saw Porus captured and defiant, he asked how he wished to be treated. Porus answered, like a king, and that's how Alexander treated him. But his men had reached their limit. Monsoons, distance, and exhaustion wore them down. At the Hyphasis River, they refused to go farther. Alexander, furious but understanding, turned back. It was the beginning of the return, but not of rest. In Babylon, he began planning new campaigns, new cities, new dreams. But something changed. Fever struck. Some say it was malaria, others suggest poison. But in 323 BC, at just 32 years old, Alexander died. He had ruled for 12 years. He had never lost a battle. His body was never buried in his homeland. His empire fractured within a generation, but his name endured. Alexander left behind more than land. He spread language, culture, art, and ideas. His cities became centers of learning. His legend traveled farther than his army ever could. To some, he was a god. To others, a destroyer. But one thing remains true. The world was never the same after Alexander.